Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Let's talk the hotness. What is on the hotness this week? Why is it on the hotness right now? And what should you know about it? Let's take a look. Let's ramble. Let's rant. Let's roll. So here you go. Front page. So starting off on the top, we're just going to work our way down today. What is it? Why is it on the hotness? What you need to know about it. If you just watched my video over the weekend from the 7th on Red Rising, this is the latest from Stonemaier Games, the latest release from them. And this is based on the dystopian world where the humans are divided into caste systems based on color, based on their usefulness, based on how important they are. And it's a card playing tableau sort of engine building game. It is, like all Stonemaier games, going to get incredibly hyped the more we get closer to the street date, which allegedly is February 22. Reviewers apparently maybe already have their copies, so we're going to see more information trickle out over the next couple weeks. Again, I'm not a big pre-order person, but this is the first Stonemaier game in, a decade that's looked good to me. So I'm really intrigued. And I kind of want to see what it actually plays like. But I heavily do not recommend pre-ordering these games lately, not just from Stonemaier, but last two Stonemaier in particular. I think there's been a lot more turnover than the previous ones because of sometimes the lack of information that has come out prior to, say, Wingspan. Buyer beware a little bit on that one, but depending on how big of a fan you are, maybe you want to get a first deluxe edition copy. So if you do, all the more power to you. But, like I said, this might be the first one that really has me more interested because of those features that I mentioned. Next up on the hot list, in case you didn't know, Sleeping Gods, Ryan Laukatz's campaign game that funded back on Kickstarter in August of 2019. So almost a year and a half later, backers are getting theirs right now. What do you need to know about it? What you need to know about it is it's all the hype right now because people are really excited by it, especially those who really like his games, but also the campaign style games. It's sort of a blending of those two things. And it's going on the hot list also for the reason this people are also scalping it. I saw a couple people trying to sell the Kickstarter edition for like $250 on Facebook earlier today. And to be clear, I think that was probably the $150 pledge level here. Honestly, though, it may have been even the $100 pledge level. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was even the $100 pledge level that people are just massively trying to turn this around on right away. So if you're interested at all in this, you can buy Sleeping Gods in one of the expansions at retail, I believe, already or very soon. And I think there's a Kickstarter exclusive expansion that is on here as well. So I'm not sure about the availability of that, but it might be a good gauge of whether or not you want it any further by just getting the base game at retail. That is why it's on the hotness right now, is because all the backers are getting it. Reviews are going to be coming out, pouring out left and right from video channels, not like myself. As you've noticed, I don't do a whole lot of reviews just by the nature of what I prefer, but expect to see a lot of it. Subscribe to the Board Game Geek page here if you really want to see it, because I have no doubt that on this page there are going to be a lot of things popping up already. There's one review 7 days ago, and already got the how to play from Rodney. So like I said before, people want to be the first, they want to get the clicks. So expect a lot of hairs to be jumping soon with a lot of film under your belt. Next up, Res Arcana. Now, I might do a review on this, speaking of me not doing reviews. Why would I do a review on this? Because I traded for this at the end of 2020. Frankly speaking, this may be one of my new favorite games because of the variability in the limited deck engine building scenario, even at varied player counts. Now, why is it on the hotness? Well, for starters, it's on the hotness because it's just a good game. Secondly, it's coming close to breaking the Board Game Geek Top 100, which is not a small feat in and of itself. Take for what you will the Board Game Geek ratings and the scale, but I mean, that's still impressive. It has to be a relatively good game, period, across the board for it to make it that high, regardless of what you personally think about it. Now, why is it probably on the hot list right now? It's because there is talk of a second expansion that is going to be coming out, an upcoming Place of Power. So they don't really talk about much more here on the forums, but this is by Sandcastle Games, which is a very small publisher. And Places of Power, just as a side note, for you that might not be aware of what this game is. I mean, it's basically a location you can buy that's going to help you with your engine building. So it's just something that's going to be a little more expensive than your routine run-of-the-mill stuff. But more of this without adding the complexity would be amazing with this game, and I can't wait to see what they do, and I might pick this one up at retail. That's how strongly I feel about this game. Next up, again, I covered this on my news over the weekend. Root, the Marauder expansion, has just really been formally announced. It finally has a Board Game Geek page, even though there's been a month or two of rumors and discussion on social media. It's adding 2 new factions, the Marauder, aka the Warlord, as well as Stoneseekers. Stoneseekers are searching for lost relics deep in other people's territories. The Warlord is basically, I come, I burn, I destroy everything, I conquer in that sense. As a non-Root person, this is going to make me look at Root again, because both of these are apparently factions that you can use in just a 2-player game, which previously I'd not been a big fan because I needed 3 or 4, so this may make me take a look at it again. But that is why it's on the hotness. That's why you're going to see Root start shooting up. I don't think the Kickstarter is for a couple months, but the hype is already going to begun. That's actually why you see Root a little bit farther down on the hot list, in case you're wondering too, past a few of these others. Next up is a game from Kickstarter several years ago that sort of flew under the radar as a worker placement post-apocalyptic type game, and that's Outlive. Why is it on the board game hotness right now? It's because one of the guys over at Dice Tower dropped it in its top 10 games, and people are over here clicking on it. Again, as a worker placement, I have no interest in it, but like I said, there's a lot of chatter on the forums here that say it's highly underrated. So if you're looking for something different as a worker placement with a few different elements, it looks like it's still going for about $35 on Amazon if you can get a copy, and it might be worth checking out. It's definitely not under things that I am interested in, but stuff that pops up on the radar that's not just the usual, I'm all for. Dune Imperium, why is that on the hot list? Well, it's been on the hot list for several weeks, 2-3 months now even. It's the latest in the combination of worker placement and deck building with the Dune theme attached to it. And the Dune mythology and theme, especially for people of my generation and my age, has some nostalgia from that side. And it's been on a lot of people's top 10 lists for the end of 2020, and that has sort of sustained it on the hotness from that side. Also, the availability is not nearly wide at retail, so you're seeing it shoot up because of that. You're seeing people sell it significantly for a markup on the secondary market. You can see right now the lowest price right here appears to be $55. Amazon is selling for $77. You can pre-order it still. It's already that well thought of. It's got 2,200 ratings. It's thematically the 30th best game, which is insane for a game that's been out for a couple months. Overall 282. So people are really, really, really digging this game. I'm probably going to either trade for it at some point, or I just want to try it, because I'm not convinced that worker placement, even with deck building, which is one of my favorite mechanics, is really going to be for me. But as a new genre combination mechanism sort of situation, I think I'm obliged to try it out to see if it changes my feelings on the worker placement. I have heard it said that it is much heavier on the worker placement and a little bit less, more random, more light on the deck building side of things. I don't know if that's true, but if that is, then it may be not a game for me after all. But like I said, it's worth a shot because I just want to be open to new things and broaden my horizons if I can. Everybody's giving it the attention right now. Drive-through review, there's a how to play. Dice Tower did a Four Corners review 2 months ago. Everybody's touching on it. It is hot for that reason. My City, in case you were not anywhere on the interwebs at the end of last week, Shut Up and Sit Down dropped their review on My City. That really was positive, very, very positive, and so now people are clamoring to get it like they do anytime Shut Up and Sit Down endorses a game. It goes out of stock by people buying it that don't even really listen to the full review, it seems like. But you can see on Amazon, it says it's unavailable. So it is what it is. It's a legacy city building Knizia type game. You're tile laying. You're adding an element each round, each year, essentially, that changes up how you score the tile laying. Again, it's probably something like a couple years down the road I'll end up with a copy of, but it's nothing that I want in the meantime. My wife and I don't play enough tile laying games as it is, as much as I like them, but it's something that it's going to stay on my radar for a long time. It's just I don't feel any obligation to get it sooner than that, as positive or as negative as the reviews have been from that side of things. Next up, Carnegie. Why is Carnegie? Carnegie is ending before this video is going to be posted on Kickstarter. They're just under $600,000. They have about, I think, like 12 or 16 hours left at the time of me filming this. And it's a heavy worker placement game. You can see right here, you've got a weight of 3.8 already. And those, hopefully that's from people that are testing it online, I think on Tabletop Simulator, that have played it, not just people basing it off of what they think, but, it's Board Game Geek and ratings, so it's probably a little bit of both. It's heavy. It's Andrew Carnegie, his steel company magnet across the US, building it across history and trying to be the best one at it. They say it has a little bit of Ticket to Ride, but a lot of options and a lot of variability in terms of what you would expect from a worker placement. Here you go. You can just take a look at some of these symbologies. I have, this is well outside my depth, folks. I have no clue. I'm staying away from it, but people think highly of it. It's getting $600,000, and not all the worker placements on Kickstarter do that. It went head to head with Darwin's Journey and still got that much, so people have to feel pretty positive about it. So we'll see what the reviews actually do when it comes to retail in, like a year and a half or so. But that's why it's on the Hotness as it ends right now. Bloodborne. Oh, speaking of things that I actually can speak about, Bloodborne, I covered this previously in my January recap. The packages of CMON's massive glory are arriving to everyone, especially in the US right now. And there are people taking pictures of these massive sets on social media in terms of just how many boxes the all-in actually is. So you can see some of the models here, some of the miniatures. I mean, it's CMON, you're getting good miniatures. The game, though, is actually relatively well thought of so far. I have not yet gotten a chance to read my rulebook, and I did not get the all-in because of my feelings on some of these particular models being a little bit too grotesque for my table. But I'm excited to be able to actually play it, and I think even with the limited expansions that I have, I think it'll be more than enough. Gosh knows how often I can actually get this game to the tabletop in the first place with any consistency. And I'm just a big fan of games like this, so everyone's getting it. Everyone's talking about it. There are 2 reviews on the forums, and people are already starting to agree and disagree about how they feel about it, as with all typical CMON games. So that's why it's on the hot list. You're going to see people selling it. I've seen people selling it on Facebook now for, twice the value of the all-in pledge. I've seen people even raising the limited pledge by $100, the core pledge. So if you want it, you're probably better off waiting like 3 or 4 months for the hotness to cool down. You'll probably be able to get most of it on the second market for a relatively decent price. The other problem is, though, that some of the expansions are either limited run or Kickstarter exclusive. But Bergenworth, the Forsaken Castle, the Cathedral Ward, and the Unseen Village, so those are going to be a little harder to come by. People are already marking those up almost by 100% on the secondary market. So if you're looking for more of that, you may be better off waiting and getting an all-in pledge from someone who just wants to ditch it 3 or 4 months from now. Now, here we go with Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. I don't think it's any particular reason that it's necessarily on the hotness that something new is going on, but I think the biggest overall thing is just look at the freaking rankings right now. 8th overall, 4th thematic, 6th strategy, and this is a late 2020 release. So that is just tremendous. Now, is it really a 3.54 weight? I don't know about that. I don't get into that side of things. And it incorporated a few things that they're actually throwing in Frosthaven in terms of accessibility and ease to get to the table. That was a lot of the problem or some of the biggest complaints that went with the original Gloomhaven, as good as it is thought to be as well. So just something that you should know. 25 scenarios. I have not played mine yet. Another on the long list of shelf of opportunity. I will get it to the table and it will be played. And this is one that I personally am looking forward to playing with the kids or even my wife as just a very introductory, are you going to like this sort of thing? Is this your type of thing or not? Lost Ruins of Arnak. As with further down on the very end of the hotness, this is the combo of deck building and worker placement that is all the rage, and it's getting all the attention now in terms of the 2 new combinations. It's still not widely available at retail. You can see it right there, $60 on Amazon. So people are still selling it at over cost of what it should be. Let's see just what we got actually on the Board Game Geek market. So $75 here, $65 Canadian actually just posted. So you can see it's a little bit cheaper there. Otherwise, opposed to Amazon, who knows when you're going to get it. And it's just, from what I've seen, it's relatively solid. An 8.3 rating with 2,300 ratings is very solid, actually. I've heard mixed feelings on it. I've heard people debate it back and forth about how deep it is, how complex it is, how AP prone it is, especially at the end of the game. Some people saying it's very simple and straightforward. Other people saying, hey, look, if you're actually taking all of this into account, then there's a lot more going on here than what meets the eye. Again, this is a try before you buy with this type of combo for me because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure how heavy the worker placement is versus the deck building, and I think each of the three now that are out there with big name, like Dune Imperium, this one, and the Endless Winter, which is at the very end here, that I'll talk about, how much of the split is worker placement and how much of it is deck building. I am much more looking forward to the deck building side of things and a little bit less on the worker placement. And if one of these has more or less of that ratio, it's going to be more or less of an interest to me. So I've not heard anyone necessarily break that down. That might be an interesting topic for someone to cover at some point in the future. But that would require copies of the game and some knowledge of the game that I just, frankly speaking, haven't really put in right now. And I don't want to pay, 150% of what it's actually going to cost at retail just to get it a few months before somebody else. It goes against a lot of what I believe. Basically, I skipped over what this game actually is. It's Indiana Jones. It's Indiana Jones. You're finding in a lost civilization. You're trying to explore the island to uncover what you can, to unlock new worker actions as well as new wealth and abilities. So, I don't know. Will it stand the test of time is really the question. It's skyrocketing up. Not as fast as Jaws of the Lion, but still pretty fast. Terraforming Mars, the Ares Expedition. Now, this is the next in the line of the Terraforming Mars games. And the interesting thing here is that it is a total spin on what they've done previously in two ways. One, it's an engine-building card game with simultaneous selection. The other side of things is that they are going on Kickstarter. And that is contrary to a lot of the other retail that Terraforming Mars sort of went with traditionally in the beginning, except for the last big box with like the terrain or the special 3D elements. So I think a lot of people were turned off on how they organized and ran the big box campaign in terms of what you had to get or what were forced to get the parts you actually wanted. But again, I have never played Terraforming Mars, disclaimer. I have no interest in it really right now, but as a card game, we'll see if it holds up or what it actually changes or if it's going to appeal to my senses as more of a card game player. And I will also be talking about this later in the week because it launches on the 16th of February. It'll be on my upcoming Kickstarter games of next week that I post at the end of this week. Apart from that, not much is really known about how the mechanics play, what it's actually going to be, how would you compare it to other things. I imagine that some of the big names are going to have videos on this as well. I don't think there's anything actually up here. Nope, just an interview. So a lot to be unknown at this point. Dwellings of Eldervale. This is by Luke Laurie. It is very thematically incorporated, heavy worker placement with oodles and oodles and oodles of content. I think something like 12 different factions, maybe 16. I honestly don't remember. Very highly thought of. A lot of people had it on their best games list of 2020. Again, as a worker placement, it's not going to be on my list of games. It did catch my eye, and I won't lie, I was tempted to back it on Kickstarter. Probably one of those last minute I did not back it, as opposed to last minute backing. And I even thought about picking it up when they had the retail sale that maybe even still has a couple copies now. Side note on that, it was really weird. They sent an email out if you signed up to let you know when they were going to do this sale. But then they also said in the email, don't tell other people. Don't tell other people when this is because they might get it before you. And that just sounds weird from a retailer being like, shh, we're having a secret sale. Don't tell anyone. We don't want things to sell out too quickly. Okay. Now, that being said, the price was like $40 or $50 for each pledge level higher at retail than it was for the Kickstarter. So you're really paying a premium for the pledges on the retail side of things now that the Kickstarter backers have all gotten there. So that also didn't leave me a very good taste in my mouth. And the highest pledge level was something like $120 or in Kickstarter. I can't remember. I broke this down on an early video last year. It was something total like $200 at retail for the legendary pledge, which is like the everything with like the miniatures and the sound bases, and they sort of tier locked some gameplay even, I think, with a couple of the legendary monsters or elements of those. So I wasn't really a big fan of that, and maybe I'm wrong on this and someone can correct me in the comments, but you definitely got more content at the higher levels, not just purely deluxeification. I'd be more in favor of just the deluxeification if you're going to give me all the gameplay content at the lowest level, but, so be it. It's probably just going to be a game that I will never pick up then, especially because I probably am never going to be able to play it in the first place to know whether or not it's me, because I'm not going to blind buy a worker placement with knowing my own preferences. Last but not least, like I said, Endless Winter, PaleoAmericans. It's not out yet, but you can see it's already got 200 ratings. It just funded on Kickstarter like 2 or 3 months ago. So that's a lot of ratings for only funding on Kickstarter. Again, the combination of deck building, worker placement. A lot of people are super pumped about this as having probably the highest ceiling of all three of these games out there right now. The theme doesn't do much for me. I know a lot of people were really digging it, and the deluxeifications and the additional expansions that came with the Kickstarter that you could get at the deluxe pledge levels. But again, worker placement element of things, I'm going to have to try, because otherwise my mind just does not wrap well around these games. I don't have fun necessarily doing them, but it's something unique. It's something different. So I give them a lot of kudos for being willing to do that and put the amount of effort that it took probably to get this designed in the first place. So that's why it's on the Hotness. We'll see when it actually shows up to backers, how that changes. Again, just like when Lost Ruins of Arnak comes more widely available, what is that going to do to the rating and the overall thought of it? So that's it. That is the Hotness roundup. What is on the Hotness, why it's on the Hotness, and a few of my thoughts and ramblings along with it. I don't know. What do you think of this? Is this worth doing? Do people care about this enough? About why something is on the Hotness? Or just a little blurb about what you should know about these games? One of you guys suggested it, and you know what? I think it's an interesting concept. So if it gets the likes, if it is something people enjoy, hey, look, I'm happy to do it. I want to cater to what you guys want in the first place. Let me know. Or what do you think is going to be upcoming on the hot list? I know there's a lot of stuff personally delivering. I think probably 3 or 4 Kickstarters, at least for me, delivering in the next like 30 days or so, depending on how the shipping goes. So I think you'll see a few new things. Even if I did this once a month, you definitely see the list shake up depending on what gets received as well as what gets launched. At the time of filming this, I think we're 3/4 of the way to 1,000 as well. So thank you so much for that. I really can't appreciate how much you guys are willing to put up with my ramblings. So thank you. Thank you so much in advance. Let's see if we can get it done by the end of February. Do you think that's possible? We're looking at about 20 days, so we'll see. That would be approximately like just over like 11, 12 people a day-ish that would have to be subscribing to get us there by the end of the month. So if that could happen, that'd be awesome. And thank you again to all 11 of you that are patronaging me. I'm going to screw that up every time. So if that bothers you, you can just skip over this part of the video every time. But again, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you feel about this. And I'll see you next time, a little bit later this week. Stay classy out there.